this is not a session recording. This is a summary of a recording which did not record. So yes, the session didn't get recorded, unfortunately, so I'm just going to be doing the summary of what I did and just going through this, which will take no time at all to go through now that I've already seen the picture and I can sort of relate it to the pictures that I've seen. So admin page. The basic one here is describe the event. I described aspects of it, not really concluding it was that. If you're watching the video, it is of Bikini Atoll, where they're doing the hydrogen bomb tests, nuclear bomb tests in the Pacific. So, yeah, it was actually, let's go through this. So basic, describe the event, intermediate, more associated activities, advanced, relative sizes, measures, blah, 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 those types of dimensions. This really affected me when I saw the result. There were some really unusual impressions that I got, and a lot of firsts that happened in this session. If I remember, I'll point them out. But who has a nuclear bomb as a target? But you know what? We've got big boy shoes, and we're pretty cautious, and we understand we're not in the basics of Happy Valley targets, and especially with this one, this really surprised me as well. Just the immensity of it, really. My scale was very small, yet the scale was very, very large. So yeah, let's kick into it. The more I can talk about it, then it'll be good. So the target today was 060116 dash I call it, and it's Madoodle. Alright, so for the first one, I just had the gestalts and the points in which I measured. So I did 3 on this one. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and went through the normal. So from the shape, subject, sense. Here we go. So it feels loose, softish, stones, gravelly, slight loss of energy, not solid, slightly opening, more than solid than 1. No loss, solid, cold surface, did it, okay. So cold surface, cool pressure surface. So here, the first one, so basically I've put where the feelings that I point at different points. Feels loose, softer, stones, gravelly. So here, I'm assuming it's the little island that it was on. And I could feel in my arms, where I usually feel most of my impressions, is that you can feel the granular or gravelly, sort of stony sort of feelings in your arms. You just sort of get familiar with those sorts of feelings, and you're able to sort of describe more about them. Slight loss of energy, not solid. So this slight loss of energy at number 2. So when I probe, I put in, it feels like a measurable amount of energy, probe energy, if you will, into the point. And when I probe, I can feel feedback from the energy somewhat. So if I feel most of the energy come back, I know the subject is a solid. It bounces back all the let me just close this door. So here I'm thinking the sand, the beach, the land, the island of Bikini Atoll. Slight loss of energy, not solid. So when I probe, I try and probe with a certain amount of certainty or amount of energy. And depending on how much is reflected back from that probe, sort of like a feedback, if I feel most of it come back, you can sort of, it feels like it's reflecting off the solidness of that subject or object. The more energy you feel go through and not get reflected back determines the density of it. If it's quite loose, a lot of energy is lost into the object because it probably absorbs it more. But the more solid it is, the more reflect of that energy or intent. It's probably a better way to understand it is the more intent you put into it or energy, the more comes back when it's solid. When it's not so solid and it's quite loose in its density, a lot of it gets absorbed by the object itself. 3 here, so no loss, solid dish, cool surface. So 3 here is very much a solid object, a cold surface. Here is just pressures on my arm. Just felt, and that's all it is. It's just pressure on my arm. It's a cool surface. Whatever it is, describe it. Try and be articulate with it, with the description. The better you get at describing things, the better your impressions are going to be described from. So textures here. Let's get back to this session. Large cold slabs, cool surface, exposure, weather, bulky, solid. Yeah, I felt a lot of weather type things. This actually felt like rocks, exposed rocks. And yeah, my hands here felt like they were blocky. Solid, really light, cold. So they felt like they just felt really light, like either they're floating, they're non-existent, those sort of descriptors. What I've got here is pins and needles. So I've got the second probe, which is number 3. Actually, that's number 1, which is the cold spot. Number 2 is both hands are really light and cold. I got some heaviness in the elbows. And 3, all I feel is pins and needles and something inflating really slowly. Just tingling pins and needles. So my guess, because I can feel this inflating, I'm just wondering if those are the explosions and it just bellowing and filling out the sky. Is this inflating? I don't know. But the pins and needles feeling was a new one. All you could feel was pins and needles. It was just energy. It's like you could feel it zinging around in your hand, sort of thing. It never stopped. And just was constant. Just pins and needles, tingling. You'll see through the session as well. What we got, temperature. So we got very warm at the top and cold at the bottom. I think that's just like maybe a visual representation of the explosion. What do we got here? Cold low back. Yeah, I don't know. Cold arm, cold elbow. It just felt really cold. Really cold everywhere. Flat top surface, cold wet. So I had an arm, cold arm for number 3 for the temp. 1's the explosion. Anyway, colours, dark browns, blues, brights. Second one was the same. Bright blues, darks, reds. Yeah. Smells, smoke, burning, charring. So to me that also sort of follows number one as the explosion. Not that texture of number one describes an explosion. I don't know. But smells, definitely. So smoke, burning and charring, chemical, man-made. The smell was very, very man-made, very chemically. Spicy smell to it. Food, yeah. It was just cooked meat. I don't know if it was food or not, right? A lot of things smell like food. Yeah. I don't know. That one sort of struck me when I found out what the target was. I was like, no, really, did I smell food? I don't know if I smell food. I don't think I smell food. Nah, that wasn't food. So over a little bit of time, I convinced myself that wasn't food. All right, hearing. So number one. So if we're going to say number one was the explosion, who knows, right? Number one, I have felt this twine, like something squeezing around my arm like a snake and going up my arm, wrapping around arm, and then I felt something on the left side of my face, like just around my cheek area. I don't know what it was. I'm just thinking, is someone injured, or is that like a wrap for a broken arm or something? I don't know. And these feelings around my face, left side of my face. Don't know what's going on there. So that was one. This is two. Number three. So number three, you know what? That looks like a representation of the explosion, where you got that ring, that dark ring, and you got the inflatable head at the top, puffy head top, and the puffy bottom. Then you got the flat surface of the island. Don't know. So these were my snapshots that I got. The picture started off quite small, and as I was drawing it, like I did my snapshot, and then I thought, okay, cool, we'll go through the motion. It looked like a tree, but the tree got bigger and bigger, and I was getting these sort of the leaves are red, and then it sort of started sort of glowing, and then it looked better. Like you just, that's yeah. So this thing here turned out to be, for me, as I was drawing it, it felt like a burning tree, and it started off this small, and it ended up this big, and it was just going to keep going. Now, by this stage, I was sort of trying to keep, you keep the stable mind, keep the AOLs out, don't let your mind drift. Well, I had an AOL on this one, and this one for me was like Burning Man, because I'm like, oh man, I can see these people, they're like reaching up, and I'm thinking, they're around this Burning Man sort of thing, and I fully expected this man to sort of appear in the fires. I was just scribbling all over the place, and then I started scribbling all these like figures, human figures around it and shit like that, and I thought it was like a Burning Man festival or something. And then the second one came around, I thought, oh wow, this, when I went through my motions on the second snapshot, it was like a big tree, like I had this big like trunk, and you're just bloody drawing it out, then all like these branches or limbs spread out from this trunk, and at the end of them were like big puffy clouds of bush, really, just a big puffy bush, and then there was like this big massive bush. I fully think that's that bloody mushroom cloud that I was seeing, but because my scale, I believe my scale was like, oh, I'm looking at a tree size thing, something that's in front of you, not as big as a house sort of thing. And this friggin' thing's friggin' massive. Like, you can take pictures of it miles and miles away, and it's still massive. And I didn't have the scale. I didn't see the scale. I didn't sense the scale. Maybe it came through and I just missed it. Who knows, right? So it's whatever how well you connect to the signal. At the end of the day, it really determines whether or not you get the stuff. But that's what I felt. Just this big tree in the second one with a big bushy head and all these limbs and all that sort of big clouds coming off that. These two pictures affected me the most during my session, because this one I fully thought, oh shit, I'm basically, if I had kept drawing, maybe I would have drawn the mushroom cloud, I don't know, but it was getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and it wasn't stopping, and then I was drawing all these people hanging around with their arms up. And that kind of freaked me out the most, as, maybe it wasn't a festival and these were people, I don't know, you just don't know. You get these signals, you make assumptions. But that's part of the process as to how you deal with what you get. And you have to be quite honest with yourself. You just don't know. But that's the whole point. Some things, and I got the some things, so that's okay. The other things we'll get in time, eventually. So let's go to page number 2. So I did a freeform gestalt here. I was going to do a simple one, and I thought, no, bugger it. Let's go freeform. Let's see how much information was to come through on that one gestalt. So I got 4 shapes out of this one. So I labeled the shapes here. So I've got a hill mountain, I've got a subject, and I've got a land, and then I've got a structure at the end of that. So I just made it 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and just went through the motions of scanning each one for each of the different sensors. One with touch, no solid, light missing. Yeah, so this was really light, and it felt like they weren't there, like my arms weren't there. With my previous one, I felt like they were light as well. So this one, they had the impression that they were missing, and this one, like they were so light they weren't there. So that's the structure. So was the structure missing? I'm not sure. After that, yeah, probably. Second one, so we've got the subject here for number 2. We've got the cold spot, hand speed, changing state when probing. So I fully expect my hand sort of inside that space detecting something. Whether it's the radiation, I'm not too sure, to be honest. 3, so land, sand, dirt, dust. Makes sense for an island. 4 structures, so felt sore back, crampy, massive crampy back. I felt like massive structure might have been there. Maybe it's talking about the island, I'm not too sure. That one was a bit puzzly for me. I'm not too sure about that one. So textures. What are these ones? So 3, top right hand, cheek moving, long, thin, solid board, true arm. Oh yeah, through arm. England's terrible. Yeah, it just felt like there was a strong board going through my arm. So not too sure what that was, even after the picture. Yeah, shapes. Really got shapes from this one. So in the texture, cold, smooth, plastic surface, cold waves around right hand, cold spot underarm, texture. Oh, man-made, probably. 2, tingly, pins and needles. Alright, so 3. I felt really blocky in my shoulders, and there was a path across my arm or a cold band. Even after the photos, I'm not too sure what that was. So tight structure. So in the middle of my back, so if my head was here, these are my arms and that's my torso. I felt something really tight going across my back. I'm not really sure what that is, but as far as one of the nuclear explosion look like, it's got this big black band across something. One of them, so I'm just wondering if that's the relationship to that, because you can feel the temperature differences when you feel things. How your body applies it, I don't know, but just be honest with your description, and at least if you have an accurate description, you might be able to find a resolution for it or map to it. Temp. So I've got sky moon. Why did I write sky moon? I'm not really sure. Desert ground. It just felt hot. Like desert was coming up. Desert. And then for some reason I had some sort of dot up here or some feeling up here, and I wrote sky moon. Don't know what the hell that one is. So that's a cold spot. Hot ground. Number 2, warm glow. Can only think that that's the explosion. 3, we've got a warm structure on the left hand side and a cold structure on the right. I had my theories about this. Maybe that's the land and that's the water picture, where the pictures aren't of the explosion but of the atoll itself. Maybe it's a representation of the picture. I'm not too sure. All I got this overwhelming sense that half of me was warm and half of me was cold. It pops up a few times in the session as well. So if we pop up here, long, cold, bored, stiff. So I felt the long, cold, bored, stiff on my arms as well on the side of my torso, the left side. Smell. So food, long, sweet, and people. And 2, we've got people and body odor. 3, we've got open air, dust, and complex. Number 4, we've got oils and smoke. So with oils, you can sort of, when you smell plastics, you kind of smell the chemicals as well as the oils. That's what I was smelling, sort of the oils of something, and smoke. Hearing, we've got noise, activity. Of course there'll be noise and activity. Hearing number 1, we've got cold spot under arm. We've got heaviness on one arm, on my probe forearm. And we've got also a hearing for number 2, icy band across the arm. And number 3, I've got the left side sort of feeling on my face again. And all of those, I have no idea what it could be. So for the snapshot though, I drew this fire. This LS means left side, so whatever the picture was, it was sort of on the left side of that picture. But this was a burning fire, which I drew with all the smoke plumes and the fire and all that sort of stuff going on. The second picture, snapshot 2, felt like a structure. Felt like curved roof and some pointy bits to it as well. Didn't really be able to map that to anything to what I saw in the pictures that I had. The snapshots also, I've got the shapes. So this sort of looked like a ladder or a fence line that went really far. Didn't see that in the feedback. And this just felt like something was here, there was nothing there, and that's the background, and there's this big object here. So not really resolve those two, but you know, you can't really help what you feel. You just got to put it down, and hopefully if things match later on. So what have we here? We've got the matrix. So seasonals, sensor rules, should I say. So the matrix, I use it as a sort of a toolkit of different types of triggers, dimensions, other descriptions. Let's just put that, other descriptions. Things that might help you think of other thoughts, other perspectives in that target. So let's go with sensor rules. So sensor rules is basically, it's an extension of the previous pages that we did. I didn't really get anything more from a feeling. I just felt drier. That's what came to mind. It was just dry, probably hot and radiating, freaking just drier. Now magnitude, when I did my ping, it went far and wide. It was like, you know, I was talking expansive, not expensive, but expansive. But there were things there that were, I could feel that I was passing on the way while that ping sort of spreading out, sort of thing, right? So I knew things were there, but really it just went through. The energy still went through. It never sort of stopped anywhere. Topological was like shapes. Yeah, I only got a triangle. Not really much from that either. So we'll just sort of, don't worry about that. Energy-wise, body feels unusual. Light, floating, active. Like energy is coming from me. So when I'm writing this down, what I was feeling was energy was coming, irradiating from me. Like if I'm the nuclear blast, energy's just pouring out everywhere. And that's what I felt, but it felt like it was coming from me, and it's not something I've ever felt before. It was like I was expressing energy. You know, it just felt like a constant expression. Like everything was a bit harder, a bit tougher. It was just heavy, and coming out of me, from me, outwards. If it was like magnitude, I suppose, you know, it's just, and, you know, my pictures, that's just me. So, oh shit, if it was coming out like this, my goodness, how much can I stuff it up? So, it was just traveling out everywhere. It was really weird. It felt moving. It felt energetic, active, light, floating. It felt light. Like when I say light, it felt like there was no weight to my body. You know, when you go over in a car and those bumps and your body sort of floats in the air for a second before it comes landing down in the seat, sort of like that. Like it's you know, your body's in the air floating for a bit and you're not experiencing gravity. Sort of like that. Well, look, floating, that's what I mean, like when I'm saying floating. That's what it felt like. It was really weird. But I appreciated that feeling. That was one of my firsts. If that's the middle of a nuclear bomb, my mind's just a bit blown away by that I might be remote viewing in the middle of a nuclear blast. How freaky is that, right? But we're limited by our perception, awareness, whatever, senses. Anyway, carry on. Anyway, mind blown. Subject. So this is what really conflicted me in my session. So subjective emotions of whoever on site, at the site. Joy, elation, tingly muscles, arms, legs, head, waves of energy everywhere. So I'm still sort of feeling this thing going on. Ecstasy. I was trying to search for something. I was searching for the right descriptor. It wasn't joy. It wasn't elation. It wasn't ecstasy. It was that going over the bump feeling, and I was trying to put a word to it. It's hard enough trying to describe it when you know what you're talking about. But when you don't know what you're talking about, it's even harder. So higher sense of feeling. So I was trying to search for something that maybe it wasn't something that I can relate to. Maybe it's something, just that sense of something just beyond my normal realm. Then I started getting all devotion. Did it feel like devotion? And then I wrote this forget about the world moment. Now when I saw the feedback and I did this, I kind of felt a bit weird about some of my... Oh, you haven't seen anything yet. Wait till you get to my concepts. Alright, so let's just get to concepts because we'll probably have the same conversation going forward. So physical, not really related to the clouds or the explosion. Not really sure. I did feel something growing, but maybe it's this big. I don't know. Maybe I only felt that. It just felt like really small. I didn't feel all of it. Maybe I didn't give it enough of a chance. So we'll just... It is what it is. It is what it is. So it is what it is. Iwi. Anyway. So paraphysicals. Here, I just felt tingly arms all over. I don't know why I drew these, but it just felt like they were spots all over my body that were tingling. I'm thinking they're the radiation. Just the radiation in the air of the subject of those things. That's about it. Okay, so here's the concepts. So some of these I had problems trying to map things, not only mapping but emotional responses to some of these. Here are the concepts that came. People want devotion away from the world's problems, sense of hope. how do I even... So, one context, AOL Festival. I didn't think anything out of the ordinary because I had fought this AOL on the previous drawings where I drew people around the supposed Burning Man. And I was thinking, oh, it could be a festival, could be a higher sense of feeling. I don't know. That's what was going through my mind, and I was trying, not struggling, but I was just keeping it at bay just a little bit. But when I did these, I didn't see any problems, but we get it wrong. It's okay. Not everything has to equal anything. And when I was trying to make sense of it all, so here we go, ecstasy, high sense of feeling. There are scientists that have dedicated their lives to the research of these things, these weapons of war, or the men of science. They definitely have a lot of devotion to their craft. Forget about the world moment. Seeing that, I'd forget about the world. It's just utter distraction. Utter distraction. The tingling muscles, arms, legs, heads. I can only think that's just the radiation of it all. It was just tingling, pins and needles everywhere. Even like my legs, my arms, my back. It was just tingling. When I saw the target, I just thought, was I that? Was I in it? And most of the time the answer is yes. And so that I'm feeling a representation of what that felt like. At the end of the day, that's what we do in remote viewing, right? So it's a bit crude to explain it that way. It's not entirely accurate either, but it's not entirely a lie. Ecstasy, higher sense. I just needed to explain what was this expression of energy coming out of me. I was still feeling it. And the concepts, I've written some, so people, there's going to be people involved, that's not a no. Want, I get to see people wanting this for all sorts of different types of intentions, right? Sense of hope. This really had me thinking a lot about how I related this statement to the feedback. Maybe it's a sense of hope that people will one day go back to their homeland, if it still exists. Maybe it was the scientists who invented this science, technology, for the betterment of our world. But inexplicably invented one of the most dangerous technologies out there, away from the world's problems. Yep. When you look at the scale of those bombs and shit, you'd forget about your problems too. And I'd be thinking, what the hell is going on? My problems are nothing compared to that. I can sensibly understand some of these, but yeah, that was my hardest one, the sense of hope. How can I get hope from a nuclear blast? Get hope from the technology, get hope from your devotion you've spent on your craft, and it works. That it can still be used for good, all that sort of blah blah. Anyway, Matrix. So we come up to the last page of the session. Here, this is the symbolics. So when I did the symbol, I had a massive fire. As far as scale, this is massive scale fire. I had drawn clouds, water, sea, kind of an island, but this is the symbolic. I explained to myself that I want something that represents this picture very well, and this is what it gave me, and I'm happy with this too. It may change as I develop, but I was really happy to get this picture because it sort of validated, I'm looking at a big explosion, a big fire, something massive, destruction, fire, everything. And yep, that was a big tick for me. I was happy with that. PR, so personal responses, sawback, that's all I got. As far as, so in my last sort of sketches, I did my ideograms, gestalts, and then I put them into positional elements. So I do the first one, and then I start going through each one, and then I decide where I put them. So this one I had land, hill, mountain, had two subjects and a massive structure, or a structure. That was okay. So that could have been a person or the bomb. That's the hill, and that's the land or the island, and that's whatever structure. If that was inside a bomb, who knows? I really don't. Not too sure, but you just draw it. You don't question it. You find the relationship. The last two sketches, I've got an X. I felt the X, and then this was all sort of representing to me it felt like a forest. But for this one, the second sketch, I just had like a little, I don't know, it was like a burning forest in amongst waves and water. So maybe that's the location, like it tried to give me a location of where this was at. So a little island in the middle of the sea, and that's where my session ends. Yeah, this was a big boy target. It was quite surprising. It's taken me a couple of days to sort of get used to the target and come to terms with a couple of things, just to understand a few things about what that target was and what I felt. Maybe I thought I would have got a mushroom cloud, maybe not. One of my pictures sort of looks like a mushroom cloud, but it isn't, so it's, can't be all accurate all the time. This one here. But yeah, it was a good session. But yep, I gotta get me a new camera phone, and so I can record some more sessions, because one, my battery isn't lasting long enough anymore, and the technology is getting a bit old. Anyway guys, thanks for joining me. I shall have the normal videos back up and running next time. Alright, take care.